Hello everybody and welcome. I am Talia from Motherhood the Real Deal. I'm here with Dominic Chapman of Parenting by Design, and we are doing a 20-minute quick dive on understanding your children's behaviour and managing your children's behaviour over the school summer holidays. Now, I know many of you may not be thinking about this just yet, but in 2 weeks' time, you are really going to be cherishing this video. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Dominic, who is going to share some of his insights around what we can do as parents to understand what is going on with our tweens and teens when they are seemingly acting up, and what we can do to try and sort of, empathise with and manage that behaviour. So Dominic.
Cool, thank you. So I'm just going to riff off the questions that some people ask. So I think sort of how not to get triggered, how not to take it personally, how not to get stressed, and what to do with attitude and disrespect. So I'm going to touch on all of those. So the first thing, I think, when it comes to how not to get triggered or how to manage your kids' behaviour is to actually understand what's going on, because once you know what the problem is, then you can actually do something to kind of resolve it, I guess. So there are 4 things that are going on with teens and tweens. Obviously, there's a hormonal thing, which everyone sort of says, oh yeah, it's their hormones. And that is true, but they're not the key drivers. Essentially, your kids' brains are going through a huge remodeling process. They're getting rid of neural connections they don't need and building ones that they do. And also their prefrontal cortex, which is the bit that regulates decision-making, emotions, and planning, all that kind of stuff that we take for granted as adults, that doesn't finish developing to around about 25. So from a neurological perspective, your kids just don't have the brain capacity, the brain, to be able to regulate, their behaviour, their emotions, etc. And then, of course, we've got the push for independence. So when I phrase it like this, it's not the best way of doing it, but your kids are preparing to leave you. And I know that sounds very sad, but part of that is engaging in challenging behaviour, setting their own boundaries, discovering the sort of person that they are. And all of this is going on, and essentially, particularly as a tween, the relationship that you had with your child suddenly kind of changes. And what that really means and is required is a sort of different relationship with your child. And I think that starts with understanding. And this brings me on to how not to take it personally. Well, in essence, your child's behaviour is really just the outward manifestation of what's going on inside of them. So there's always a reason for behaviour. And when you think about what's actually going on inside of them, so brain remodeling, push for independence, hormones, then in essence, their behaviour has got nothing to do with you. It says nothing about you. It's not a reflection on who you are as a human being or as a parent. It's what they've got going on inside of them. And so I would suggest that you don't take it personally, because actually it has got absolutely nothing to do with you. So that would be my first, bit of advice on how not to take it personally. Do you have any questions on that, Talia?
I guess it's all very well saying don't take it personally, but I guess my question would be, what about when you yourself are feeling really harassed and your cup is, empty, and you're trying not to take it personally, but they're still pushing all your buttons? What then?
Well, I'm going to come on to sort of how I approach that, my mindset in a minute. But in essence, despite my mindset, as you'll see in a moment, I still, in the heat of the moment, say the wrong things or do the wrong things. And I think the key thing is to apologise afterwards, just to say, look, I screwed up. I'm really sorry about that. It's not how I want to be. Please accept my apology. To expect yourself to be perfect or not make mistakes, I think is never going to be realistic. And then the
hard on yourself. That's
exactly that was going to be the next point. The key thing is to not judge yourself for the mistakes that you make, because once you start judging yourself, you then are closing yourself down to, you know, a way of being with your kids, because if you're critical of the way that you're behaving, you can't possibly have the whole range of how you could be as a parent available to you, because
Sure.
you're always going to be behaving in a way that reflects that judgment.
So don't judge them harshly, and don't judge yourself harshly.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Just, you know, cut them some slack, cut yourself some slack. And then that brings me on to my other point, and I think we talked about it a little while back, which is around my sort of 6 pillars of parenting. And they are acceptance, understanding, love, trust, belief, and support. And I'll just deal with the first 3, because this actually is a great way to think about how to be with your kids. And in essence, what I do is I decide the parent I'm going to be before life happens, right? So a good way of describing how this works would be our morning routine at school, for getting the kids ready for school. Now, I've got 2 14-year-old kids who need to be at school for 7:50, right? So my objective is to get those 2 out of the house as happily as I can, as they can possibly be, and as stress-free as they possibly can be. So I know that, you know, they're teens. They are going to be knackered. They getting to school at 7:45 is, you know, 7:50 is a bit of a joke. So I know they're going to be tired. I know they're going to be cranky. I know that they can't regulate their emotions. So I know that in advance. So that's on me, right? So basically what I then am, what I try and be, is a thermostat, not a thermometer. So whatever goes on with them, I am going to be accepting, understanding, and loving. And so how that works in practice is that when my daughter throws me a top for me to iron, so she can go out looking good, I go, great, fantastic, thanks, darling, that's brilliant. You know, and I'm appreciating her desire to want to look good. And then I iron it and give it to her, and then she gives me another one to iron. I'm still there. I understand that she wants to look good, and I understand that she can't iron it. I understand that this is how teens operate. So with acceptance and love, I iron it again, or on another one. And then when she leaves the house 5 minutes later, wearing something completely different, acceptance, understanding, and love. I don't get peed off about it. That's just the way it is, because my objective is to create an environment where there's no stress. They leave happy. They leave as happy as they possibly can. Same with my son. You know, if he wants his breakfast in bed in the morning, that's fine. You know, we like to have breakfast at the table, but there's no fighting there. I understand that he's a teen, and that's gonna be the case. So I meet that with acceptance, understanding, and love. And then when they come home, after they've sat down and they've, you know, got rid of the day and they've been fed, then it's the time to sort of have a conversation about, well, maybe, you know, we have dinner we have breakfast at the table because of these reasons, or should we look at, you know, learning how to iron or preparing the night before? And that's basically how I kind of approach it. So my advice would be to anybody is approaching the summer holidays would be, understand that, you know, what's coming your way. It's going to come your way, right? So don't be surprised by it. But your job as a parent is to see beyond the behavior of your child and to meet that with the things that they need from you to be supported and to be trusted as human beings just trying to find their way in the world.
Right.
Do that.
I just wanted to add, I guess that's about, you know, thinking, well, they're trying to come from a good place. They're trying to do their best. They're not doing X, Y, Z to rile you, even though you might be feeling like it's riling you. You need to like switch your mindset to be thinking, well, you know, they're not doing this to wind me up, even though it may be winding me up. So just put that sort of little thought or emotion, sort of just put it aside for a while.
But the fact that it's winding me up, it's got nothing to do with them. That's my problem. That's my issues. And you're right. And I'm a firm believer that all human beings act innocently. And what I mean by that is that they are trying their best with the resources that they have available to them.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that the way that they think about themselves, who they see themselves as, the way that they see themselves in the world and what they're capable of, and the way they think the world works. And I think those things are all internal things that go on inside of us. And that, coupled with our feelings, essentially produce our behavior. But I don't see any kid as being defiant or, deliberately, evil or whatever. I think they're just trying to do the best with the tools they have available to them. And it's the same with us. When we mess up, we don't want anyone coming down on us like a ton of bricks, right? We'd like to be met with understanding, acceptance, and love. And I don't think that's any different for kids.
And that defiant behavior label, that's something we're basically putting on them. We're saying they're being defiant,
Yeah.
So that, and it will create that if you're saying that in a sense, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So here's a crazy thing. Right? So your daughter, yeah, where does she exist?
Well, that's a very big question. She exists within her own world.
Yeah, but for you, yeah, she exists. The only place that she exists is between your two ears. So the thoughts that you have about your daughter are essentially who your daughter is for you.
Yeah.
And who your daughter is for you is different than who she is for her friends, and different for who she is for your husband. And so the only place that your kids, or any kid, that anybody ever exists for you is inside of your head. So the thoughts you have about somebody and the feelings you have about somebody. And that's entirely generated by you. And so what can look willful and defiant and challenging to one person can be a kid's being resilient, willing, or whatever it is. So people can see things in the same behavior in a completely different way. And so the way that you see your kids is essentially what you get. And so if you're labeling your child as defiant, then guess what? You get a defiant kid. If you label your child as strong-minded, you get a strong-minded child. And the difference is huge.
So it's up all the difference to reframe that, is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And so I personally believe that all of the problems that arise from parenting come from the expectations that we have around how life should be and how our kids should be. And when we start to see our kids as something, we label them, that's all we really see. And then it takes a lot for them to sort of come back from that, because once you've labeled somebody as defiant, that's how their behavior looks all the time.
So I've got a question. So one of the questions that was forwarded on to me was how to kind of deal with your child's sass. So that's something, isn't it? Because you're labeling them as like sassy and oppositional, but then what could you be labeling them instead? Something positive? Yeah,
because what you're saying then essentially is well, first of all, they're going to be challenging your behavior, challenging you. That's part of their quest for independence. But you could just see that as their desire to be independent, their desire to be their own person, their desire to push boundaries. What we don't want to create are sort of walking automatons who do jobs that they hate doing just for whatever. We want kids to go out there and follow their passions, to be their own person, to feel like they can express themselves. And unfortunately, if you're kind of like trying to beat your kids down into a nice box that makes you feel good about yourself, then that's completely the wrong direction of travel to go in my opinion.
And it also feels like something from eons ago.
Yes. But you'd be surprised. I mean, the amount of people who want compliant kids, who want their kids to be well behaved and fit in a box to make them feel good about themselves. It's not for the benefit of the child very often. It's for the benefit of the parent.
So the other thing we talked about was respect, and there's always this sense of parents like, oh, my child's not respecting me, they're saying this and they're doing them. But, you know, I always think that, well, if you really want to be respected by your child, you need to respect them. So where, I mean, we've talked a bit about that, but can you kind of maybe elaborate a bit more on, you know, when we're sort of, you know, seeing these behaviors, like how we can sort of like respect them, or maybe what kind of like responses or phrases might we be able to use instead of the ones that might be at the tip of our tongue?
Yeah. Well, this is a great point. It's one of my favorites, because your child can't make you feel something. Your child can't make you feel disrespected unless that's something that you already think about yourself. Okay, so it looks like my child is disrespecting me. It's their problem. But in essence, any problem that you have as a parent is effectively your child putting a huge mirror up in front of your face and saying, actually, this is your problem, not my problem. You can't deal with it, not the other way around. And so if your child is disrespecting you, I would suggest that that's actually for two reasons. One is that you don't respect yourself. And the second one is that you aren't behaving in a way that warrants their respect. And so that would be the two first ports of call that I would go to, is actually going, well, how am I with myself? Yeah. Am I respecting my own boundaries? Am I respecting my time? Am I respecting my values? Am I respecting the things that are important to me? Am I showing myself respect? And then the second one is, you know, am I showing up for my kids in a way that respects them? Am I respecting their time? Am I respecting their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings? Or am I just, it's all about me and what I want? And so it's the same for like, my kids don't appreciate me, my kids don't love me, all of those things. Anything that your kid doesn't do for you actually has got nothing to do with the kid. It's all about you. It's right. You don't appreciate yourself, you don't love yourself, but you're projecting it onto your kid. And that's actually the same in any relationship, funny enough.
So you're saying that actually it's the parent that needs to do the work on themselves, not the child that needs to do the work on themselves.
Basically, yeah.
Sorry, parent.
I'm really sorry about this. I mean, if you look at any, like, you know, I'm not suggesting that you would do this, but if you look at any coaching or any counselling, anything like that about with kids, often the parents come there with a big problem, and it ends up being that they're the ones who get the counselling, get the coaching, because actually it's not the kid's problem. It's the parents' problem. And I remember one of the guys on my team many years ago used to say to me, when I was telling them off for doing something wrong, he says, there are no bad dogs, only bad masters. And you know, he was kind of right. as much as it pained me back then, I think he was barking up the right tree. And
you've been working on yourself ever since. I mean, I've had to do a lot of work on myself. I know that, you know, my issues from childhood, like my beliefs, my own sort of like self-limiting stories, all that kind of stuff. And that has changed the way that I parented, because it has made me take it less personally, and it has made me be able to, you know, meet my daughter like where she is, rather than coming at things from like where I am. And it has been absolutely game-changing. Yeah. So highly recommend it.
It's very true. You know, I can't remember who said it. Somebody once said that parenting is not you parenting your child, it's actually you parenting yourself. It's basically filling yourself up from the inside, from all of the things that you missed out on, that you didn't get, that you believe about yourself, and all of those kind of like foibles that limit who you are as a person show up in life and in parenting. There's no, like, parenting is not separate from life. Both are an extension of who you are as a person, who you are being.
So interesting. I think that's why so many people struggle in parenting, because it's not the parenting, it's all the other things that it brings up into the surface, like all those feelings of inadequacy, or, you know, things like that, or whatever, you know, and I don't think that's talked about enough, but that is really the undercurrent of parenting, isn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's all about getting yourself right first, and then, you know, your kid will follow. And there's a lovely quote which says, when you want something or someone in the world to change, you change first, and then it will change.
Absolutely.
And that's basically, you know, I couldn't agree with that anymore.
So true. So true. Right, listen, so say for parents who are like watching this on playback today, you know, everyone, even though, you know, we talked about you need to do the work on yourself and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but we all like quick fixes and
Yeah.
simple things you can do right now. So are
Well,
there, say, like 3 things parents can do today to help understand or manage their children's behaviour over the summer holidays? Can you share some 3 golden nuggets, please?
what I've done actually is I've kind of encapsulated the things that I've talked about today into 10 points, and I've made it into a PDF. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share that if I can. Where are we? So I need the chat, right? Chat. And then I need my it's just basically 10 tips. And then the last tip has got 6 little tips to help parents manage their behaviour, and that just links directly to a PDF that they can look at. And it's just, I've just encapsulated the kind of thing, because, you know, it's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment. It's, you know, and no one technique or, you know, one phrase, you know, is ever going to be what you need it to be. But if you've got like a little checklist which goes, okay, these are the 10 things I need to just, okay, and just keep looking at that, then you will embody them, you will practice them, you will become them, and then you'll find that things start to get a bit better.
That's great. So print it out, put it on your fridge, and have it there for the whole summer.
Yeah, yes, something like that. That's it.
All right, great. And so if people want to sort of come to you with any more questions or any more points of discussion, how can they do that, Dominic?
Well, on the PDF, I've put a little link to my Facebook page, Parent by Design, and I'm contactable via there, either by direct messaging, or they can book an appointment with me, or whatever it might be.
Great, brilliant. Thank you so much. That's going to be really useful for many parents, I think, over the summer holidays. Ours starts on Thursday, so I'm going to be printing that out and keeping it handy.
Mine are already 2 weeks in.
Gosh.
They're 3 weeks in, only another 9 to go.
Only. All right, well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.